everyone, welcome to Cancer Healing Journey Talks. Myself Sonali Modi from Community Outreach Team of zenonco.io and Love Heals Cancer. Cancer Healing Journey Talks help cancer survivors and caregivers to share their story with vast number of caregivers and survivors who have traveled or been traveling through this journey. It can also inspire and motivate them for the faster recovery as well. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker, Ms. Charlotte Dudeney. She's a cancer survivor. I'm happy that you're here with us to share your story. So over to you, Charlotte. Please start with the introduction.
Hello, yes, my name's Charlotte. I'm 27 and last November, so nearly a year ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer at the age of 26.
Okay. So what were the symptoms and how it got diagnosed?
So I actually was in the shower one evening, just completely normal, and I felt a small hard lump on my right breast. It was about 3 centimeters at its biggest, so it wasn't huge, but it was very, very hard, and I knew that that was not normal for me. I know my body quite well, and I used to check myself fairly regularly, not as often as I would ask other people to, but I did know that it was unusual for me. So as soon as I felt it, I knew that it was something bad, and I knew that I had to go to the doctors to get it checked out. I was honestly in the hospital within 36 hours, so I didn't wait very long, just because like I said, I knew it was something bad in my gut. I had quite a lot of trouble actually getting diagnosed because a lot of doctors didn't really take me seriously because of how young I was and am. So I did have to fight quite a bit to actually get some diagnostic scans done and then eventually a biopsy. So the doctor that conducted my biopsy, even she was convinced that it wouldn't be cancer because I'm too young. So it was a bit of a surprise to her and the rest of the doctors when the results came back and it was in fact cancer. For me, because I had that bad feeling right at the beginning, I wasn't really shocked when she told me, because in my head I had already kind of come to terms with it, but it was definitely not a nice thing to hear. I have absolutely no history of any type of cancer in my family, and I have always been, healthy and fit. So it was definitely not what was expected.
Okay, so what was your first reaction when you got to know that you're diagnosed with cancer, and how your family took this news?
It was very, very tough. Yeah. I was away from home at the time that I was diagnosed. So I had to call my parents and tell them the news. And, it was just such a shock to them. You never expect your child to be diagnosed with cancer, I suppose not at the age of 26. But that's something that is really important to understand, is that cancer does not have any late age limits. Unfortunately, cancer can affect people of all ages, even small children, which is so, so awful. But that's something that I always tell people, is there's no such thing as too young.
Yeah. So what treatment you underwent?
I have been on quite an aggressive treatment plan. That's just because my team understand how young I am, and they want me to have the longest life possible, and they want it to never return. So I had some fertility treatment right at the beginning before I started any harsh drugs, because for me, it's really important that I have children in the future, hopefully. So I had fertility treatment, and then I started 5 months of chemotherapy. I was having my infusions every 3 weeks, so I did have some time in between to kind of relax, but it was pretty tough. I finished my chemotherapy in June, and then I had a right side mastectomy. Everything was removed, and I've had the breast reconstructed with an expander. So it's not completely finished yet. I still have another surgery, but it's halfway through. And I'm also midway through radiotherapy now as well. for me, my cancer was hormonal. It was driven by estrogen mostly. So I'm on hormone blockers as well. And I will be on those hormone blockers for the next 10 years until I'm 36. And lastly, I'm also on some immunotherapy, and I'm back on a very, very low dose chemo at the moment, and that will be for the next year. So as you can see, that's quite a big list. And
Yes.
my cancer was still fairly early stage. It was stage 2A. So, you know, I'm really grateful for all the treatment that they've offered me.
Yes. So did you try any alternative treatment?
I haven't actually at the moment, no. I have been offered reflexology, and I'm going to be trying that soon. I'm also having some physio to help with my surgery recovery, but other than that, I haven't tried any alternative therapies yet.
So how did you manage your emotional well-being?
For me, I think I've always been quite a positive person and quite an optimistic person. So in the middle of my treatment, I think it was adrenaline. I was running on adrenaline, and I was just focused on getting to the finish line and getting to that cancer-free point. So what I tried to do is just focus on all the good things that were happening and not all of the bad things. And that's much easier said than done. And it takes an awful lot of effort to remain positive in a situation like this. But what also helped me was talking to people. As you can see, I like to talk. So, you know, I surrounded myself with really good friends, really close family members, and that's really what helped me. I also write a lot, and it really helps to get all of my thoughts down on a page. I think it's just about finding what works for you, and anything that helps you get through this, you should do it.
Yes. So what was your support system?
So I had around me my family, my parents. I did actually have to move back in with my parents. You know, I had moved out, but I did move back in with them because there were certain days where when I was on the chemotherapy, I couldn't really get out of bed. I didn't have much energy. So my parents would, you know, bring me food, bring me water, and help me to kind of get up and around. Also, my friends have been really important, just to, whenever I did feel well enough, they would come round, or we'd go for a walk, and they would treat me just like normal. And that really helped me, I think, to maintain some sense of normality throughout the treatment.
Yes. So how was your experience with the doctors and other medical staff?
Honestly, it was it was fantastic. The whole way through, I've been really pleased. I was, as I mentioned, I was actually diagnosed in the US, and when I was over there, I'm not an American resident, so I did have some trouble, like I said, being diagnosed and having to pay for diagnosis over there. But since I've returned to the UK, I've had all my treatment through the NHS, and I'm so grateful for them. But yeah, the doctors have been fantastic. A lot of them have been quite surprised by my age. You know, a lot of them have said, we haven't seen a case like yours. And I know there are, unfortunately, loads of women that are a lot younger even than me, but the care has been fantastic. They have really put a focus on, like I said, making sure that I have all of the really tough treatments now, because I am that bit younger. My body is able to bounce back that bit quicker. And, you know, like I said, other than this, I'm very fit and healthy. So I'm really grateful that they have given me all of these treatments now, because hopefully that will mean that the cancer does not ever return, and that I get to live a long life.
Yes. So what were the things that helped you and made you happy on this journey?
I actually found a really big supportive community on Instagram and social media. I think, you know, being diagnosed at such a young age, it can be very alienating and very lonely, because all of my friends are healthy and fit, and they are doing exciting things in their 20s. And I looked around, and no one I know has been through this at this age. So it did feel very lonely at the beginning. And then I started to discover this community on Instagram of other young men and women who were going through cancer fights, and it just made me feel like there were others around me, and I could really connect with these men and women because they knew exactly what I was going through, and vice versa. So, you know, whenever I had a concern about something or I had a question, it's not always practical to phone your doctor at 11 o'clock at night, but I could go on Instagram and message one of my friends and say, you know, have you had this side effect? Or, and just that reassurance and that kind of understanding was really, really helpful for me.
Yes. So, you know, there are times when you feel that it's too much to handle, but you still don't give up. So, what was the one thing that motivated you and kept you going on such days?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a vision for the future when you're going through this. Um, it's really scary. It's really, really scary to have a cancer diagnosis. And I think at first, for me personally, my mind was going to really horrible places. You know, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to, you know, have children. I wouldn't be able to watch them grow up, that I wouldn't, there was a point where I even worried that I wouldn't be here this Christmas and stuff. So it's definitely, your mind goes to dark places. But for me, what really helped is having a vision and a focus for the future. So I kept envisioning me being happy and me being recovered, and focusing on that dream is what really got me through. I think, you know, there's a risk of toxic positivity where you tell someone who's going through cancer, it will be fine, it will be fine, and you end up making them feel like their fears aren't valid, and that's never a good thing. But I think definitely to stay focused on recovery and getting better is what really pushes you through, because it can be hard to see a future, but you need to focus on that.
Yes. So, did you made any lifestyle changes during the treatment?
I have mostly stopped drinking alcohol. I've never really been a big drinker of alcohol before. I'm not from a family where we really drink very much anyway, but occasionally I would drink. But now, since the chemo, I hardly ever drink. I think, you know, I've just been put off for life. Apart from that, I'm definitely planning on changing my diet a lot. While I was on chemotherapy, I've you know, since chemotherapy, I've had a really suppressed appetite, so I haven't really been eating very much. But now that I'm starting to feel a little bit better and getting my strength back, I'm planning on completely changing my diet and really focusing on just health foods, well-being, you know, lots more greens, things that are just going to nourish my body and make me feel like I have a lot of energy.
So, do you think that cancer has changed you in a positive way?
Yes. It sounds strange to say that, because cancer has completely turned my life upside down, and it has taken a lot away from me as well. So it's not easy to answer yes to that question. But when I look at it overall, I think that it has given me a completely different outlook on life. You know, before I would probably take things for granted. I had a very smooth life up until cancer. You know, I had a very stable, happy childhood, and I had a good job, and I've always, you know, been comfortable. And that this diagnosis has completely flipped everything upside down. And I think the good thing that I can take away from this cancer diagnosis is this appreciation of life. You know, life isn't guaranteed for anyone. None of us are guaranteed to live to an old age. It's just a blessing if we do. And I think this has really made me appreciate even the mundane things in life. Just, you know, a meal with your family. Before I would take it for granted, but now I think, wow, this is a really special moment, and I'm so lucky to have these people around me and be doing this. So it definitely gives you much greater appreciation for life.
So, what are your life lessons that you got from your cancer journey?
I think for me, the realization that unfortunately bad things can happen to everyone. You know, I think sometimes this complacency that if you are healthy, if you're fit, if you're young, if you try to be a good person, you know, you can be all of those things, and yet still, unfortunately, you can get ill, or still, unfortunately, bad things can happen to you. So I think, again, just not to take anything for granted, but also what has really got me through this is understanding that nothing lasts forever. You know, even the really bad things. What's been keeping me going is reminding myself that I won't always feel this sick, or I won't always have no hair. You know, already my hair's growing back. You know, everything progresses, everything moves forward, life keeps moving on. So I think whenever things get really tough, it's important to remind yourself that one day things will get better.
So have you ever asked yourself this question, why me? And if yes, then how you cope up with this thought?
Yes, I think it's really natural to ask yourself that question when you're diagnosed. Like I said, especially at this age, I don't smoke, I rarely drink. I have, you know, I've always been, like I said, fit and healthy, so I could never really understand it. And I did ask myself that question at the beginning, and I tried not to. But for me, I think really, like I said, with cancer, there's no discrimination. That you can live a perfectly healthy life. I know men and women who are completely vegan, or like work out every day, and unfortunately they have still got cancer. So it's kind of, it can happen to anyone, and I think that's the message that I've really been trying to get across throughout my journey, is that you can never become complacent. You can never feel like, oh, it won't be me, because I thought it wouldn't be me, and I had none of the risk factors for breast cancer, and it still happened. So I think that's the message there, is that unfortunately, why not me? Because it can happen to anyone.
Yes. So what would be your message to other cancer patients and caregivers?
My message would be to keep going. It can get really, really tough at points. I know it can. I've had some very low moments and very low days, and it's completely natural to have those days. You know, this is not a walk in the park. This is not something that's easy to get through. It does completely change your life. But please don't ever give up. I think that's my message. You know, even when things look really, really awful, there are still messages of hope, and there are still stories of hope. That's what got me through as well, is looking at people 5-6 years ahead of me in this, and thinking to myself, that will be me. That will be me one day. And, you know, there are incredible stories from around the world of people who seem to have no options left, and then something will come along, or a miracle will happen, and they're still here with us, and that's what's really important. Also, I guess, just to make the most of everything, every day you do have, because none of us are here forever. So just really enjoy all of the moments, even the days when you don't feel great. It's really important to still be grateful for that day on earth.
Yes. So, you know, it is said that art or any creative thing works as healing. So have you tried any such thing on your journey?
What the alternative therapies?
It is said that art or any creative thing works as healing. So have you tried any such creative things or any artwork during your journey?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I have actually. Yeah. I've done a few. I'm quite a creative person anyway. So, like I said, I've done some creative writing while I've been sick. I have also done some painting. I used to do art quite a lot at school, so that has really helped me to relax. I will kind of put my music on and just sit and paint, and it kind of allows me to escape and not think about all of the horrible stuff and all of the treatments. It just allows me some time to kind of get away from that and focus on what I'm doing and letting out my creativity. And that's really helped. It's been a good distraction for me.
Yes. So how did you overcome your fear of treatment or side effects?
I think for me, like I said, I've never been a massively anxious person. I think I I'm able to take things in my stride quite well. One thing that's really helped me is just trying not to panic, because the more you panic, often the worse things are. And you know, if you're nervous and anxious about something, you tense up, and then your whole body releases chemicals and it makes you feel even worse. So for me, I think not overthinking things. When I have been, you know, the night before my surgery, I was quite anxious, but I told myself to relax because I knew that I was in good hands. You know, the medical team, they know what they're doing, and just kind of talking to myself and reassuring myself has helped. And it kind of got rid of those nerves, because I kind of am a believer in, you know, there's no point in worrying about things that are out of your control. I wasn't performing the surgery. All I had to do was go in there and go to sleep. So I just, you know, try to think, okay, this is beyond my control and I'm in really good hands, so I will be fine. And worrying about it isn't going to change anything, you know. So that's just my mantra. I just, you know, don't worry about things that you can't control.
Yes. So when did you think that I can beat this disease, or was this belief always there with you?
So I think for me, I kind of went through waves. When I was first diagnosed, as soon as I got off the phone with the doctor and she told me that I had cancer, I instantly, in my gut, felt like, right, I can do this. I am going to beat this. I was really confident I was going to be okay, and I was reassuring everyone around me. But then, you know, in the middle of treatment, I think I had a bit of a lull, and I started to doubt that I would get better, just because everything got really scary. There was a point where I was taken to hospital with sepsis, and I was quite unwell with that. So at those points, the really dark points, I think I did struggle to see myself getting better. And in those moments, all I had to do was think about, you know, the next few days or the next week, and not think too far in advance, just focus on what was happening then and there. However, once I got through the chemo and once my surgery was done, I really started to change my mind on things. And again, I started to see myself getting better. You know, once you see your body recovering, you see your hair growth, you see the color come back to your face, I think it reassures you that actually I might be okay, and I think I'm gonna beat this. And that's kind of where it turned for me.
Yeah. So did you join any support group? If so, then how did it help you?
So I haven't been able to join any in-person groups because of COVID. The COVID restrictions in the UK mean that a lot of, you know, gatherings aren't happening as much. And especially where I started my treatment, we were on lockdown. We're not anymore, but I haven't really met that many people face to face. But like I said, I've joined a lot of groups on social media. A lot of Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, where a lot of like-minded women, you know, women of all ages with breast cancer, are in those groups, and they have been so helpful to me. Again, like I said earlier, just having a group of people that you can go to, and they've really been through it, or they're going through it, and they know exactly this, they have exactly the same concerns and fears as you. But often you find that someone will put a message in that group, or someone will share some bad news or good news, and everyone rallies round to support them. And I love that sense of community, because it's brought me so much peace. And like I said, seeing these women that are, you know, a few steps ahead of me or several steps ahead of me, it gives me something to focus on, and I can start to envision myself, you know, in their position in a few years' time, being a few years cancer-free.
So what do you think are the stigmas attached to cancer and the importance of awareness for it?
Yeah, this is a really important one. I think, honestly, before I got cancer, there was definitely this belief that, you know, it's like something to be not embarrassed of, but something that's like, oh, don't talk about cancer, like, shh, don't talk about it. It's complete nonsense. You know, unfortunately, there is that figure now that 1 in 2 of us will get cancer at some point in our lives, and that's literally half of us. So, you know, it's so common. You only realize it when you're in this world, I think. Like I said before this, I'd never had cancer. No one in my family close to me had ever had it. So I was completely oblivious to this whole world. But once you get cancer and you're in this world, you realize how many other people, you know, have cancer and beat it all the time. Unfortunately, it is all around us, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be embarrassed of, and it's nothing to be scared to talk about. It's really important that we talk about this, because it can happen to anyone, and it does happen to a lot of people. I would say my other point, that, you know, the message that I am really passionate about is, again, this belief that we can be too young for something. You know, I've recently heard of a woman, or a girl, who was 14 years old and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So if you have breasts or breast tissue, you can get breast cancer. And that, you know, that's something that people in the medical profession, people in society need to understand, that, you know, unfortunately, tiny babies get cancer. Anyone can.
Yeah. So at zenonco.io, we help cancer patients like through their journey from diagnosis to forever. So what do you think about our work?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. You know, what people really need when they've been diagnosed with cancer is support. And, you know, there isn't like a one route fits all. Everyone does have different needs. Everyone has things that work for them and don't work for them. But what really helps, and what helps with everyone, regardless of, you know, where you're from or what your beliefs are or how old you are, one thing that is absolutely crucial when going through cancer is support. And that, you know, no one could do this without support. And the question, you know, the answers to their questions, that reassurance, that knowledge is power, like they say. And that's really helped me a lot of times when I have been clueless. You know, it's such a steep learning curve having cancer. You suddenly have to remember all of the names of these drugs and your exact diagnosis. It can be so confusing and so alienating, but, you know, work that you do is just absolutely crucial.
Yes. So if you have to sum up your journey in one sentence, then what would that be?
I think I could sum it up in one word, and that word would be growth. I feel like I have really grown as a person because of this diagnosis. I absolutely feel so passionately now about this awareness work, and I have been really lucky to be given a load of really great opportunities from this cancer, and I never ever thought that would be the case. You know, when you're first diagnosed, you think your life is over and that everything is bad, but there are certain opportunities like this one right now, speaking to you. There are people I never would have met, fantastic people I never would have met if I hadn't have got cancer, and there are opportunities I never would have gotten if I didn't have cancer. And of course I would rather have not had it, but it has made me grow so much as a person. I feel like I'm able to understand people better now, and, you know, unfortunately in life, bad things do happen. And I think when something often happens to you, it makes you, and you get through it, it makes you realize how strong you are, and it makes you feel more confident going forward, because, you know, if you can survive cancer, you know, you can do anything. So yeah, I'd say it's just made me grow as a person, definitely.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing your story and for your valuable time, Charlotte. I hope this session really motivates people out there who have traveled or been traveling through this journey. So it was lovely having you here today on this session with us. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.